Well, good evening, everybody. This hearing is now in session and it's being recorded to maintain a permanent record. My name is Chris Castelli. I'm the interim deputy director for operations at the Department of State Lands, and I will be serving as the department's hearing officer. Today's date is November 15th, 2023, and the time is 6 p.m. Joining me from the Department of State Lands are
Danielle Boudreau, Rules Coordinator.
And
Blake Helm, Proprietary Specialist.
great. Thank you. The purpose of this evening's meeting is twofold. We will begin with a 30-minute information session, followed by the public rule hearing for the proposed adoption of OAR 141-088-0036 by the Department of State Lands regarding public use restrictions of state-owned land at the Sandy River Delta. During the information session, Blake will provide an overview of the proposed rule, which will be followed by a question and answer session. Once that is concluded, we will begin the public rule hearing. Please note that during the rule hearing, the department will not be answering any questions or responding to comments. This meeting will conclude when all participants who wish to comment have finished. And I think we're turning over to Blake here.
No, for slide 3. So this is for Zoom protocols for anybody who's joining us via Zoom. We ask that you raise your hand to ask a question or provide a comment. And to do that, you'll click the reactions icon near the bottom of your screen and click raise hand, or press *9 if you're on the phone. Participants will be called in the order in which their hands are raised. We ask that you keep your mic muted unless it's your turn to speak. And we ask that you be respectful of each other and DSL representatives.
Great, and now we will hand it over to Blake Helm to go over the background.
Thanks, Chris. The Department of State Lands oversees the beds and banks of the Sandy River, as well as approximately 50 acres of natural area adjacent to the Sandy River Delta, a 1,500-acre U.S. Forest Service natural area extensively used for recreation. For more than a decade, this area has been used for long-term camping by people experiencing unsheltered houselessness. The department works with the U.S. Forest Service, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office Homeless Outreach and Programs Engagement Team, Metro Regional Government, and other partners to reduce impacts of long-term camping, with an emphasis on connecting people with services and housing. On August 1st, 2023, the department enacted emergency restrictions on use of vehicles and firearms on state-owned lands and Sandy River Delta, to address the health, safety, and environmental hazards created by driving vehicles and discharging firearms in the natural area. The department is undertaking the rulemaking process to permanently restrict vehicle use and discharge of firearms. Sandy River Delta partners support both the emergency restrictions and the permanent restrictions through rulemaking. Next slide. The department and partners are receiving increased reports of vehicles being driven and parked on state-owned lands and of firearms being discharged. These uses are concerning for the following reasons. Firearm discharge puts people using the natural area at risk. Thick brush reduces visibility past 100 yards in most places. In addition, Troutdale Airport is across the river and aircraft frequently fly directly overhead. Driving and parking in the natural area creates safety and health risks. Since trails are unlit and for pedestrian use only, the use of vehicles on them increases the risk and likelihood of injury. Fire risk is also increased when vehicles access the natural area, as the heat from the engine and exhaust can ignite dry brush. The area has no maintained roads, and therefore vehicles park over brush. Additionally, vehicles leak fuel, oil, and other toxic liquids and introduce exhaust, affecting both human and environmental health. They can damage vegetation, create rutted trails, and increase runoff and soil erosion through soil compaction, both of which contribute to the degradation of water quality. Next slide. These permanent use restrictions are meant to protect public health and safety and the environment. The proposed rule language restricts the use of motorized vehicles and the discharge of firearms on state-owned lands in the Sandy River Delta from River Mile 0.0 to River Mile 2.5, including the Columbia Riverside Channel. The language provides exceptions to the use restrictions for certain authorized uses, such as government personnel on official business and waterfowl hunters on foot in possession of a legal hunting license. Next slide. This is a map. Slide 8 should be showing a map of the lands proposed for permanent use restrictions. The area includes state-owned land that is under the jurisdiction of the department, including state-owned lands between the line of ordinary high water and the line of ordinary low water, and any uplands of current or former islands in the Sandy River Delta from River Mile 0.0 to River Mile 2.5, or from the mouth of the Sandy River to the I-84 bridge crossing, including the Columbia Riverside Channel. Next slide. At this time, we will now take any questions regarding the proposed rule language. Please raise your hand if you have any questions.
Thank you, Blake. We have no one in the room with questions. And we'll give a moment for anybody who's joining virtually to raise their hand if they have any questions. We do have a hand up.
I believe Jeff.
Okay, hi, I gotta figure out how to unmute. So it seems to me this is Department of State Lands and one participant from the Friends of the Sandy River Delta.
That's correct.
Okay, that's unfortunate. All right, so you're just, the quick first question is just about the language of the rules.
Okay,
Yeah.
if you have a question, go for it.
Well, yeah, no, that, right, because I do have, when I get to, you know, the heart of the matter, I think is enforcement, but I don't know how you're structuring the questions and answers. Sounds like yours, this first is the question about the rules themselves.
Yep, the question is, if you have any questions you'd like that would help, you know, inform your testimony, if you chose to give oral testimony afterwards, this would be a good time to ask any clarifying questions of the draft rule. You bet. And Blake and I.
Yeah, well, I was a
try to-
participant in the RAC call, so I understand the discussion behind it, and I know you were doing some carve-outs for hunting purposes. My question really is going to come down to enforcement. And if this is the proper time to discuss that, I will submit a written report online. I haven't done that yet. I know Barb has done that for Friends of the, she's with us, Friends of the Sandy River Delta, and she's also with Oregon Equestrian Trail. So I'm going to do an online comment. I don't know if it won't have any impact on the rule. I think the rule is good. But considering you already have rules for camping, which is, as you know, has been a tremendous problem out there, and that's not getting enforced. And after years, it's finally getting some attention at least. I don't know. And when I asked the question about enforcement in the RAC session, I was kind of met with silence. So that's my concern.
Sure, I appreciate that. It's Jeff, right?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Jeff. Yeah. Well, the sub 3 of the draft rule is speaks to address what the repercussions are from violating this use restriction. It's actually some newer language we've drafted up with the help in consultation with the Department of Justice and with the help of law enforcement. In this case, it was Multnomah County Sheriff's Office on how we will address folks if they violate this use restriction. So that was meant to address that and give the agency some more flexibility with regards to expelling somebody for a longer period of time should they violate these use restrictions and be you know, caught by law enforcement.
Okay, well, the key word there is caught. But you understand my concern. So I only see the question slide of the area underneath the power lines right now. Is the text that you just referred to posted on your website? And by the way, I had to search for the link for the Zoom call here. It was not necessarily easy to find, which I think was not great either. Just a side
Thank you
comment.
for that feedback.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah.
Yes, so I'll read it.
I've uploaded the
Okay.
draft, I've uploaded the file to the chat. So there should be a PDF in the chat that
Okay.
you can access that has the rule language.
Okay, great. Super. I will probably post this to our Facebook group as well. Yeah, the link that you supplied in the email, which I'm glad you sent the email out a couple of days ago because I completely forgot about this. You linked to a page, but then you had to figure out how to navigate from that page to the meeting information. And the link for the Zoom meeting was just text. It wasn't a hyperlink, for what that's worth.
Okay.
So, you know,
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback about the email.
Yep.
I'll talk to the appropriate folks about making things better in the future.
Yep. Yeah, it's nice to, you know, I don't know if that would have helped. I generally don't expect a lot of engagement in things like this. I'm sure this is not uncommon for you. What I will say is when the Forest Service was still working on, you know, kind of becoming public with their plans for the Sandy River Delta way back in the early 2000s, they filled the meeting space, whatever it is, at Glen Otto Park. And the participation was raucous and loud and concerned. This is a little bit more esoteric. A little bit more niche. I did post this meeting. I got some comments on it, but not many. And I'm not terribly surprised you don't have a whole lot of traction here, for what that's worth.
Sure, I appreciate that, Jen. Thank you for your participation on the rulemaking advisory committee too, and thank you for helping us get the word out. We do appreciate that.
Yep. Well, I try. I might as well, you know, at least show you what I'm looking like. Oops, what am I doing? What is it? It went to another. That was weird. Oh, you know what happened? So I got, side story, I got a camera in front of my house and it keeps popping messages up, and I was going to click the video so you can at least see me. I don't know if you can see me now. Hi. But I clicked my link to the camera because I've had a car stolen and I've got cameras on my cars now. Anyway, that's for what that's worth. Yeah, so again, I think the rules are good. I would like to see them enforced. I don't know how big of a problem. I know vehicles have been in there. In fact, I've mentioned that, you know, there may need to be more bollards set up or physical barriers. I know people have driven into places they shouldn't. I don't have any idea, nor do I really want to know from experience what kind of gun use is going on out there. I know there's been assaults with, you know, stabbings and such. So I have absolutely no problems with the rules. I've seen some, you know, back to my general comment, I've seen pictures out there of how huge the camps have become out there. And to me, it's an environmental disaster. But, you know, that's not affiliated with these rules. So anyway, any rules that'll help make the area safe for people that go in there and happen to go into an area where it's not part of the Forest Service trail system, you know, any rules are good rules. I just want to see them enforced.
Well, thank you so much. We're probably going to be done with the question section in a second.
Yeah.
And if you said you wanted to do written testimony, but you're more than welcome to, in a second, to just state that for the record for, as oral testimony too. Just
okay. So that wasn't.
Yeah.
No,
So
give me just a minute.
Okay.
Just a minute to read a little more of the script, and we can get your testimony officially.
Okay. So I was jumping the gun. That's why I was asking. That looks like my dog in there. How'd you get that? The white one.
Yeah.
It
Anyway.
could be, these photos in this slideshow are all from the Delta, and one of my coworkers, it's her dog there in the foreground.
Okay.
to
Well,
follow
good.
these
So you know
quotas.
people that use the place. That's awesome.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, so just give us 1 second, Jeff, and we can.
Yep.
Take your testimony for the record. We are ready?
Okay.
All right, we will now begin the public rule hearing portion of this evening's meeting. If you wish to provide an oral comment, please raise your hand now and we will call on you in the order in which hands are raised. For those participating via Zoom, you'll click the reactions near the bottom of your screen and click raise hand, or by pressing *9 if you are on the phone. We ask that you remain muted until you are called. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you have written materials to enter into the record, please say so and try to summarize your comments. For the record, please clearly state your name and affiliation before providing comment. As a reminder, the department will not be answering questions or responding to comments during the rule hearing. If you wish to provide written comment, we will share the method to submit those. And with that, I think we will call on our first person.
Jeff,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Do I have to raise my hand?
No, you
No,
don't.
sir, we're good.
Okay. So I'm going to try and at least summarize what I said. I didn't realize that was part of the public record discussion.
Start with the full name and affiliation. Thank you.
Jeff Shu, president of the Friends of the Sandy River Delta. I've been active in the area since well before we actively formed as an organization in 2005. Worked closely with the Forest Service, and we've in the past tried to engage the Department of State Lands on the issues arising on the state lands portion of what many people consider to be the Sandy River Delta. I'm totally in favor of these rules. I think they're necessary. I think the fiscal limitations of trying to get vehicles in there is just as important as the rules. I know that weapons and not as certain as firearms in there. I've not heard, well, I've heard gunshots from hunters. I know there's been assaults out there and stabbings and the like. I think the firearms limitation is critical, and the carve out for legitimate use of firearms for hunting is appropriate. My largest concern is enforcement, and rules are meaningless unless there's actual enforcement. I have not yet read the text that refers to that. I will review that after the meeting and provide written public comment by the end of the public comment period. And I think that's all I have to say.
Great, thank you so much for your comments tonight. Okay, we have called the names of everybody who raised their hand to speak. Is there anyone else who wishes to provide comment today? And maybe we can just hang out for, let's give it a few minutes.
Yep.
It's like 6:20.
Okay. I'm just going to mute us for the time being.
Written comments may be submitted. We have no further raised hands at this point. Written comments may be submitted one of three ways through December 1st at 5 p.m. Written comments can be submitted by email to dsl.rules@dsl.oregon.gov. There's an online form at www.oregon.gov/dsl/laws/pages/rule comment.aspx. Or you can submit comments via regular mail to the Oregon Department of State Lands, 775 Summer Street Northeast, Suite 100, Salem, Oregon, 97301. Before we close the hearing, I just want to also thank the city of Troutdale for hosting us tonight at the public hearing. We appreciate the space and appreciate their time and efforts as well. On behalf of the department, I would like to thank you for attending this evening's meeting and for your comments. It is anticipated that the proposed rule will be presented to the State Land Board for approval in early 2024. Once approved, the rule will be filed with the Secretary of State for adoption. At this time, I hereby close the public hearing on the proposed rule for OAR 141-088-0036, restrictions for state-owned property at the Sandy River Delta and Multnomah County. Thank you.